you come in contact with in their everyday life, are you willing to witness to them at the moment? That's a challenge we offer out this morning. Continuation of devotions from Sunday school this morning. I want to read one verse out of Joel here. We were talking about God asking us to share your life story. And out of Joel chapter 1, verse 3, it reads, "Tell your children of it, and let your children tell their children, and their children unto another generation." God urged parents to pass their history down to their children, telling over and over the important lessons they have learned. One of the greatest gifts you can give younger people is your life story. Telling it can help them see how God always been involved in your life, bringing good from your sins and mistakes, showing your mercy and showing you with his blessings. Share with them the turning points in your spiritual journey and encourage them in their faith by telling them what has motivated you to follow Jesus. If we don't share, who will? God has blessed each and every one of us that's here this morning. And if we don't have the courage to share with him, with other people, what he has done for us, people are going to miss a blessing. And this morning, this is what this is about. Eli and Emma are going to be sharing. There's going to be questions being asked. And hopefully, it's going to be a time of fellowship and bring honor and glory to God. Eli and Emma, if you want to come up with your family, sitting. Eli, you're the oldest then, right? No, not by much. If you want to start over here and then have the family fill in by their age. That way, for those that aren't familiar with the family, we'll have a little bit of idea who they are. Yeah, if Eli will sit at the end here, yeah, you can pull that out. Make sure you have plenty of room and feel comfortable. Make yourself comfortable, people.
Room at the table for me.
You were an afterthought, Eric.
Not really.
Not really? Okay. Your mom's sticking up for you.
She always has.
The delayed blessing. Yes, I should have said it that way. Not an afterthought. Yep. Okay. So, Dennis called me the other night and asked me if I would MC. I'm not sure why he'd done that. I think he'd do a better job up here. But anyways, I said I would try. Whoa, Eli came prepared to preach. This might go to 2 o'clock, Eli, huh? So that's okay. My sheet's bigger. We're going to ask a couple of questions to get started. And if you have questions, we want you guys to ask them questions this morning about their life, the 50 years of ministry. And I was given a couple questions maybe to get started, and then we're going to open it up here to for you guys to ask questions to them. And they may not have all the answers today, but maybe they will. And we're going to ask you to use the mics that are in front of you for those who may not be able to hear you back there, because I know how shy this your family is at times. Okay. First question that I have here is, how old were you when Eli gave his calling into ministry? Is that the children? The children. Do you know?
I do know.
Maybe we should introduce yourself, not myself.
Okay, I'm Emily Fleck.
Estelle Ludwig.
Eileen Hagee.
I'm Eric Eberly.
Okay, that's the 4 children. And we got Bernie coming in the back here, in case you didn't know. I heard he's going to be talking today. That's why I'm introducing him. He's going to be talking today, too. So, I was told that this morning, Bernie, so. Okay, go ahead. How old were you?
I was 10.
You were 10, okay.
I was 6.
I was a baby.
And according to Mark, since I'm an afterthought, I guess I would only have been a thought at that point. Is that right?
You are a blessing waiting to happen. I stand to be corrected here. Okay. Question number 2 here we have is, what was your response?
Well, since I'm the oldest, I guess I'll go first here. I don't really remember a whole lot of a response. I guess maybe I was more concerned with what happens with the church I go to, probably, because I'd been at Newmanstown for 10 years. It's like, that was my life. So, but other than that, I don't think I was too concerned about it.
And I didn't know what was going to happen, so I just went with the flow.
You look like you don't know what's going to happen now. It's okay. Just relax. We at Manada want you to relax. Feel at home.
We're a little nervous.
You think I'm not? I do well under pressure when I laugh, so there might be a lot of laughing up here, and that's okay. This is a time of rejoicing. Okay, anybody have a question out here that they would like to throw out at this family this morning? Don't be shy.
Mark says we might not have all the answers, but there's a lot of people in here that think they know the answers to stuff. So somebody ought to have something. So.
Maybe it's good to give an idea of how the stationing works.
Okay, since Dennis brought that up, he would like to come up here and share that with us. Come on up, Dennis. See how I set people up. That's okay. We already had this discussion. He didn't say who was going to do it. He said there was 4 people that were elected that would probably have a good idea. He happened to be the best one, in my opinion.
Probably of the group that's here, only George, myself, Mark, and Eli. Well, Emma would remember how stationing committee worked. But for the rest of you, the way the United Christian Church stationed pastors when Eli gave his calling was they would elect from each congregation one individual, usually an official, to serve on stationing committee. Conference would meet on Saturday, and about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock it would dismiss, but then stationing committee, which consisted of one man from each congregation plus the presiding elder, would meet in the evening and have a meal and then station the pastors for the coming year. The pastor was only stationed 1 year at a time. And so it left a little bit of anxiety and angst in the pastor's family, I would think, not knowing when they went to conference on Saturday where they were going to end up stationed officially as of Monday night, because conference would end on Saturday, it would reconvene again on Monday, and they would finish their business, and the last thing for conference on Monday night was the announcement of where the pastors were stationed for the coming year. And so what could actually happen is, and like in Eli's case, he's here at Manada, he could come to church Sunday morning, and Monday he gets assigned to another church. He never got to come back to even say farewell. So it was, shall we say, a tense situation. And I think it plays out throughout the family, and that's part of the reason for having the children here today, to see how that played out, especially as they got older and were making new friends and leaving old friends behind.
I want to say something. Is this on? I want to say something about that. Later on, it was changed then, that you stayed at the church. In the middle of April, you moved. I think it was around April the 15th. It seemed to me like it was tax day. It changed then.
A couple years after that. Right.
Yeah, because when we left Colebrook and came here to Manada, we stayed there until April the 15th, and then we moved here to Manada. And Sunnyside, we did too. Okay. And that was maybe even a little harder than the way it was before, because going to church and knowing that you're moving, it made you a little, I don't know. I just didn't like it that way either. I didn't like the other way, and I didn't like it that way. So when we came here to Manada, and we've been here so many years, I think this is the end of our ministry, because we're getting to the age where, but then I thought of Moses. His strength was as good when he was 80 as it was when he was 40. And, Caleb, okay, got it wrong. And then I thought, I'm not quite 80 yet, but I know that my strength is not like when I was 40. But I better not talk too much. Right?
That's okay. Go right on.
We were hoping she would.
We expected this.
Well, I might as well say what I'm going to say, but I took this as doing the lighter side of our ministry. And there's things that happened in the different churches that we were at that I remember as being kind of funny, the ha-ha funny. The one time when we were at Sunnyside, and Emmon Kreider was the class leader, and he took it upon himself that when the new preacher came, he drove us around on a Sunday showing us where different members lived. He thought we should know where the members of the church lived. So he drove us around. Now, Emmon Kreider was the kind of person, I don't know how many people here would remember him, but what we would say in Pennsylvania Dutch, he was a little hushlik. It was go, go, go. So we're driving in Lebanon. He's driving. We're on the back seat, Eli and I. And we're going to find this lady's house, and Nancy says, "There's your street, Emmon." No, she called him Kreider. She didn't call him Emmon. She called him Kreider. She said, "There's your street." He slams on the brake. Eli and I slide off the back seat. It was the day when you didn't wear seatbelts. And we slid right off the back seat. I think we were almost on the floor if it wouldn't have been for our feet. And that's one of the memories I have of going visiting at Sunnyside. And then there was a lady at Sunnyside, and I think she took Eli as being one of her children. I think she took me too, but I think she really had a special attachment to Eli. And when we went to visit her, she invited us for dinner. And she said, "Now, when you come for dinner," she said, "Norman uses big words." Now, Norman wasn't a United Christian, but he worshiped United Christian, but he was a Lutheran. He was a member of the Lutheran Church. And I said to Eli, "What are big words?" I thought like we were not going to understand him because his words were so big. And then I said, "Well, I don't even know what big words are." And then she said, "Well, he uses some curse words sometimes." And I didn't know curse words were big words. And I can't quite remember some of the other stuff, so maybe I can talk a little later if nobody uses up the time. But I know I co-broke the one time we went to dinner and we sat down to eat, and it was Catherine Fleck's house. And before we could eat, we were sitting at the table, and she goes, "Before we eat, we have to sing a song." And she started singing a song. I can't quite remember the song, but we had to sing the whole song, and she knew the whole song, so we sang along with her because we were hungry and we wanted to eat dinner.
Okay, I will ask the next question here, which Emma partially answered here anyway, so we'll just get into this here. Once you understood how ministers were stationed, what was your reaction to the conference, and did that change as you got older? And we'll let the children here How'd you guys feel going into conference? Emily, you're going to do a lot of talking today, I feel like.
I don't know. I'll go first. I didn't like when conference came around at all. It caused a lot of anxiousness and nervousness. I don't think that changed as I got older either. I remember either staying up very late on a Monday night to find out, or getting up early on Tuesday morning. That was the first question you asked. So,
Dad used to write a note and have it on the table. So if we got up during the night or in the morning, we'd go down, we'd look at the note and see where we were stationed, so we knew where we were going.
yeah, it was a relief if we were staying at the same spot. So,
Pretty much the same thing. He would have a note on the table so we would know where we were going. And we as a family didn't even move around a whole lot. But yeah, it was still the back of our minds, like, where are we going?
So being on behind, I probably have a little different perspective on that because I was 11 when we came here. Is that right? So I don't remember the Sunnyside switch. I can see pictures. But I just remember when we switched from Colebrook to here, I was upset. I was devastated, upset, left a lot. I didn't understand. And, to be honest, it probably gave me a pretty bad view of the station committee for, I was mad at him. And my Uncle Herm was on it that year. And I remember him coming to me and talking to me about it. And Bernie, were you on it that year too? I remember you were on it though at certain times, because I remember, and speaking from, I spent a lot of time with my Uncle Bernie, who was often on that committee. I remember him dreading going to that and being part of that because he knew just kind of how tough it was. But I remember my Uncle Herm was on it that year that we got here, and he came to me later and said we tried to do the best we could, and we put you here because, or not really because, but he's like, we were thinking about you, and there were going to be other kids our age here, which Jeff was here and Dave was here, and we instantly became friends. And but yeah, it was not an easy thing, and I think apparently I'm the only one that got what my mom has and likes to talk in front of people. I don't know what's going on here. But we were talking about this on the way up here this morning. Our family just went through a church split, church change this year, and I seen how hard that was on my kids, and I'd had to think back to those memories of how hard that must have been for not only just making a decision as a parent to change a church, but to have to respond to the church telling you this is where you're going to go this year, or in whatever 3 years you're moving. And and I never saw that from my parents. They didn't really show that struggle. They took it, this is what we're called to do, and this is what we're going to do. And so it just gave me a different perspective on that with having these questions and thinking about what we were going through too this year. So
I want to say something here. On a Sunday morning after Saturday night conference, if the officials didn't look at you very well, you knew well enough you were going.
Before we left Newmanstown, the year we left Newmanstown.
How many different churches did you serve at?
We were at Newmanstown for 4 years. We were at Colebrook 6 years, but Sunnyside 6 years, and Colebrook 10 years. And next year we will be here 30 years, if the Lord willing. Shanks we were at during the time we were at Colebrook, because they needed a pastor at Shanks, and David Hickey and Eli shared Shanks for a year. So we would do we'd do the morning, 8 o'clock morning service at Shanks, and then go back to Colebrook and do the 10 o'clock service.
So the children go with you to Shanks too then?
No.
I don't remember that we did.
No, we didn't take
Okay.
the,
I can,
did you go longer?
yeah,
Okay.
we had to leave really really early, and I didn't like it.
So that's because he had to go.
my dad was a minister in the UC church, and I remember and I was very, very young, but I think he was stationed at Colebrook, right? Was he at Colebrook? And Colebrook and Shanks. And I remember going back and forth to those two churches. And I didn't know the schedule, and I sat out in the car one time waiting for him to come out, and nobody ever showed up. I was sitting out there bawling my eyes out because I thought everybody left me alone. And yeah, that was very different from flipping churches back and forth. I think you just didn't know. I was young and didn't know the schedule. Thought this was the Sunday that we had to go to Colebrook or something, and going back and forth. But yeah, just didn't know the schedule. But
That was the only time we actually shared two churches. We never had to do like some of the pastors had to do in that. Like I know some had Mount Hope and Fontana at the same time, so they had to do their evening service and their morning service. They had to switch them. So, but what I wanted to say is when we left Newman's, I was pretty sure the Sunday morning that we were going to leave Newmanstown as the superintendent of Sunday school, when he said about the closing song in Sunday school, he sang the song, "Where He Leads Me, I Will Follow." And it just struck me that we're not coming back to Newmanstown. And I had such a heavy heart. I mentioned it here once before that my brothers and my sisters, they were at Newmanstown. And it almost felt like I was leaving my family. But then when we came here to Manada, it was a little harder yet, because we left all of our children at Colebrook except Eric. Eric came with us to Colebrook. He was too young to make up his own mind.
I still am sometimes.
We told them that when they can drive, then they can make their choice. And I think I said that here. And I want to say something here. When we were at Colebrook, I was Becca's Sunday school teacher. I had Becca in my Sunday school class, I don't know how many years, over at Colebrook. We had some really good times because I was younger then, and one Sunday morning we had the Sunday school lesson on Elijah hiding in the cave. And I don't know if she remembers or not, but we were in the back room of the church, and there was a table like this sitting in the back of the Colebrook church. And I said, okay, so we're all going to hide in the cave this morning for our Sunday school lesson. And we all sat under the table. That was our cave. And I remember that Sunday school lesson as if it was just yesterday. I always enjoyed teaching. The only thing I don't know why, but when a preacher went to a church, they thought his wife has to teach. At Newmanstown, I taught teenagers, I taught young married women, I taught old married women, and there is a fun memory of Newmanstown. One of the young guys in the teenage class, he thought his Sunday school teacher needs to go on a motorcycle ride. So we had to get together, and he got his motorcycle out, and he said, "Emma, get on the back. We're going for a motorcycle ride." And I said, "Well, not on the road." Then he said, "No, the lane's long enough. We'll go in the lane." So that was my first and only motorcycle ride. So I better let other people talk. I used my 15 minutes anyhow.
You must have fit in pretty good here, though, because you had David Meyer, your age. Jeffrey Wanger was right about, you guys are all about the same age. So you must have fit in fairly well.
Yeah. No, it was, other than being 45 minutes from home, it was a good fit. And I'm not, that certainly brought the challenges of the distance, because your friend group from school and your friend group from church were just two totally different. There was no intermingling at all. But yeah, no, I have a lot of good memories from coming here. So, yeah. The porch?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. How many years has that place been closed? My goodness. But no, one of the things after church, I'd always relentlessly would bug to go to the porch for lunch. And we didn't always go, but when we did, I always got chicken cordon bleu. I was very set in my ways back then already, I guess. So, yeah, that's certainly a memory.
I think each change was hard, but there were benefits that we got from each new church that we went to. With Newmanstown, we left family, but we gained new friends and met new people. And then the change to Colebrook was hard, but through that change to Colebrook, all three of us girls found our husbands there. So, you know,
And
that
that's
was
a
all
good
God's.
thing?
That was all God's.
That was a good thing? Yeah. Okay.
Most days.
Well, as Mom said, she said when we could drive, we could make up our own mind. And I remember it was a hard time for me to decide if I wanted to leave Sunnyside and go to Colebrook or not. And I mean, I was glad I did, but that was very difficult for me because I've always gone to church with my family. And it was like, now do I not? Do I go by myself on a Sunday morning or do I keep going with them? So I did decide to go.
Just, you guys talk how hard it was for you, and I was very good friends with Dave at the time, and knowing that he may leave the church, and that friendship will be where. And yeah, for a kid growing up like that, it was like, I might lose a good friend. So that point of view, when you look at it that way, from us, it's just not these people, and maybe you folks didn't have that, but I was like, may lose a good friend, and that he may be leaving, and you never knew. And we didn't find out normally till the next Sunday who the minister was going to be. It wasn't that you had your Facebook that you could let everybody know everything. The instant you do, although I'm not on Facebook, so I still don't know what anybody does half the time, but that's okay. But, okay. Next question here. Did you sense any stress on your parents in the conference as approached each year? And I think you shared a little bit, somebody shared about that at Dorn Conference or something here, but was there any stress that you guys picked up?
They didn't really let it show, but I know it was stressful for them because, you know, what the conference decided for Dad affected everybody. And with being so far away, you know, their closest church I think we ever went to was 20 minutes from home. So we always had a long drive wherever we went, but it was stressful, not just the drive, but just the
bonding time.
The bonding, yeah. Well, we sang a lot in the car.
Because we only had AM radio.
Oh. Well, you got a fancy one sitting out here in the driveway now. They were converted, praise the Lord. Okay, I knew I was going to get that in somewhere this morning.
It's not the kind I wanted, though.
But isn't that how life is? It's not our plans, it's the Lord's plans.
At least it starts with a C. I don't know how
For
many.
Christian?
Christian. Did they ever make a car named that? If you want to know when I got my own way, it's the day we come to church in a purple Cadillac.
And that would be Elvis's
You'll never
Cadillac.
have that.
I think Emma did get a Cadillac here one year. Did you not?
I did.
Somebody in the congregation got Emma a Cadillac.
It's about this long. That's a pink one. I also got a pink Cadillac.
She did drive a Cadillac. When we were here, the Stoners, you remember Alan Stoner? She married, what was his name?
Bud.
No.
Oh.
Her second husband.
Oh, yes. I don't remember.
Thornton.
Gordon. And he had a Cadillac. And they were here one Sunday morning and he got sick. And Emma drove him and her back to the church home where they lived in his Cadillac. So that's good enough.
Black, it was black.
A black Cadillac. That almost reminds like the what Buses drive around here. Oh my. Okay. Let's see. Question for the children again here. Did you tell other children, especially schoolmates, that your dad was a preacher? Or did they just know by the way you acted?
That's right. No, I did tell some. I guess I remember more in college that a lot of people knew. And I remember I had one friend who liked to come home with me on the weekend and eat mom's cooking. And if we would go to a Saturday evening service or whatever, or church and Sunday morning, she'd tag along. And she was one of those people who, like, how can you say Christianity's right? Every religion's right. And then later, after we graduated, she moved on to California and walked by a church one morning and was so lonely she went in and accepted the Lord. So you never know what seed was planted by coming home on the weekends, but anyway. So I remember she knew, and she liked coming to our house.
So how did you, knowing that all people have faith, how do you share with somebody that Christ is the only way when they know that, there's so many ways out there, but how do you share with somebody that you need Jesus Christ as your Lord and personal Savior?
Well, I remember trying, and I remember a couple other people trying to talk to her about that, but she was not open to it at all.
It was in the Lord's timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was not. So she would just say, how can you say that? Yeah.
We are called to plant the seeds and let the Lord do his work. And sometimes I think we try to run ahead of that, and we got to be careful, but we're called to plant the seeds. So, okay. What did you like the best or least about being a preacher's kid?
Well,
Everyone wants to talk on this one.
well, back then, each church had Saturday evening service before their communion. And so we went to church a lot. So back then, that was the least thing that I liked. Looking back on my life, that probably was one of the best things because I got to know a lot of other people and got to know people. But back then, I was shy and I didn't really want to talk to people. I just need to be with my mom. But I still need to be with my mom sometimes. But yeah, you got to meet new people. But we went to church a lot. But I know when we were little, one of the things that to our benefit was we had to pass our grandma's house to get to any of the churches. My grandma loved to go to church, and we got to stay with our aunts and play at their house or just hang out there while mom and dad took grandma to church. So that was one of the things I remember.
Yeah, I would say too, we went to church a lot, and preachers' kids were to behave and sit still. And I had trouble sitting still as a young kid.
Eric, did you want to share anything on that?
Pretty well the same thing. I was always well behaved. Anybody who knows me when I was a kid. Sat still, just like the book, just like the textbook, right? Now there is actually a lot of churches, and I don't really remember this, but we went to church. Pretty much if United Christian Church had its doors open on a Saturday or Sunday evening, we were going. Didn't matter which one it was. But that's what we did. And there were a lot of times when I was younger that they would actually carry me into church, put me on the back bench, and I'd sleep the whole time. And they'd carry me back out, and I'd get home, and I'd be like, where were we? Like, I don't remember. I tried to pull that as a teenager, but it did not work here as well. That was a flawed plan. But no, that was I think everybody echoed that. We went to church, and I think I'll echo a little bit what Estelle said, or Danley said, about hating it in the moment. But, looking back on it, like, it wasn't bad, really. I mean, met a lot of people, heard a lot of good teaching over the years. So.
Yeah, I would kind of echo. I was kind of thinking on the same lines, and I really, it's like you don't really question it. You get ready, you go. But I really look back and I enjoyed the times that we did sing in the car and just the times in the car that we had together.
We also went to each church's revival at least one night. And I know when we used to go to Shanks and a couple other churches, if we had family that went to that church, after church we went to their house just to hang out and have snacks. I know when we went to Shanks, it used to be like 11, 12 o'clock at least till we got home, and some of this was on a school night. And now that I'm a parent, it's like, I would never do that with my kids. but we had a lot of fun and made a lot of memories with them doing that.
The one time Eric went when he was a teenager, and we were going to a church service, and I am not sure where we were going, but it was at the time when my mom was in bed. She couldn't get out of bed by herself because of Alzheimer's. And Bernie and Betty and Ruth were also going to church. They lived with my mom. And Eric said, I'll stay with Grandma tonight, and everybody can go to church. And I just said something to my sister Betty not too long ago about the time that Eric stayed with Grandma because he didn't really want to go to church. And I said, then she said, how many teenagers would do something like that? Stay with their grandma who has Alzheimer's.
Eric, did you even watch your grandma at all that night?
I did.
Okay.
I believe there was some TV watching multitasking that went on too.
Okay. Next question here. How many different churches were you a part of before getting married, and did you have a favorite one? We kind of answered that a little bit, except the favorite one and why.
We should probably all say Colebrook, the three of us.
We should, but I'm gonna say Sunnyside because we pass a lot of fast food restaurants. So I always, as a little kid, wanted to stop for French fries on the way home.
We heard some of those stories here at Manada about you.
We're quite good at pesting and begging to go somewhere.
Aren't children? God has gave us the ability as children to do that. And then we get adults. I don't think we outgrow it sometimes. Okay. Two of the married preacher kids, two of you married preacher kids, there we go. Did being a PK have an effect on that decision?
I would say not really. I mean, we both knew what it was like, so I mean, it gave you a common bond there. But no, not really. Probably more so maybe the farming background. But
Well, I'm not going to let you off the hook.
I know, you had that look in your face. I wouldn't say it really impacted my decision to marry him.
You can be honest here. He's not here.
I know he's not. It does make a common bond, and we both knew a lot of people from our different churches that we went to, but I would think it was God that brought us together and not being PKs.
You didn't expect me to chime in on this question, I'm sure. But,
Oh, yes, I did. You're like your mother. And that's not bad.
So one thing I will say, whether you're a preacher's kid or the secretary's kid or the usher's kid or the treasurer or whatever, I think when you grow up with a family who serves in church and you see your parents, whether on a Sunday or through the week, going to putting the time in and serving the church, which Laura's mom and dad were very active in the church that she grew up in. I think that sets a precedent for you when you're in your early years of marriage and when you have kids. There's not questions about it. You're going to go to church. You're going to help out in Sunday school or Bible school or whatever. Like, you set that precedent. And that was one thing I was taught early on. Like, you're not just going to go to church and sit in church either. Like, you're going to be involved. And I think my wife would share that same thing. That's how they grew up too. That her parents were always involved in stuff. And you see that, as you start to step out a generation or so, and you can really start to see that, like, because when you see kids who grow up just going to church and their parents are just going to church, you can easily start to fade. That's a little extra 2 cents there, but so be involved in the church you go to.
Okay, Bernie, are you ready? I was told you got 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And it won't take you that long. It shouldn't. But you got Bernie talking, he's like his sister. Come on up, Bernie. I used to like Bernie till he started working for the competition.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Now I just love him.
Yeah. Well, I thought of I'm going to try to keep this together. All the hats that Eli wore in my life. I don't ever remember him not being my brother-in-law. He was always my brother-in-law. I was 3, I think, when they got married, so I don't remember it. Was it 1? Okay. Yeah, I was probably 3 when Emily was born, I think. Yeah. So I was 1. Later on, he became my Sunday school teacher. Then he became my minister. Then I started to work for his dad part-time, and he was full-time. So we were fellow employees. He took over his dad's farm and became my employer. When he quit farming and I had a chance then to buy the farm, he kept the share of his inheritance in so I could purchase the farm. So he became my lender. But the greatest thing that I think that Eli was to me was a friend. For all the different things that we were, I always considered him my friend. And I was thinking of that with Jonathan and David, how their friendship was. So Eli, that's an honor to you. Now, on the lighter side, for Eli, and this is before I knew him and before he was married, him and a couple of my cousins, some others, went to a place on Saturday nights to see who could eat the most French fries. And I always wondered who did it. Now I'm going to ask it in church. Who ate the most French fries? Because I never got a clear answer.
Ben Haberger.
Okay.
Skinniest guy.
Well, that's what I...
Okay. Thank you, Bernie, for sharing. I think if we all were given a chance to stand up here, Eli and Emma had a very important part of our lives. And we could take quite a bit of time up with that. But at this time, Eli, we're going to turn it over to you, and you may share for a couple minutes if you want to.
She used some of my time.
That's okay. This is okay, Eli.
I have one question.
Okay, go ahead.
Did you ever take it personally when you were moved? Did you think it was a strike against you, that somebody was unhappy with you? Or did you realize it was just part of the system?
That's a tough question.
His wife is shaking her head yes on that one, so let's see what Eli says.
I think when we moved from the one church, I did take it a little personal. I didn't, but I could sense that when we were coming closer to conference, that this is it. I'm moving. I could just feel it. And then, as I said earlier,
Eli, put the mic on.
as I said, see, I'm used to talking with that thing. When we got closer to conference, when we got to, as we were getting closer to conference, I could sense that this is it. And then when we got to that Sunday morning, I knew it, because the way they just, they didn't ignore you, but they didn't want to talk to you much either.
They were hiding a secret.
So, but actually, when I gave my call, I knew the system, and I wasn't about to bug it. When I gave my call to obey the discipline. That was in the discipline, and I was prepared to go.
Go ahead.
Oh, now what was I supposed to say?
Whatever you want to.
Okay. Well, first of all, when I was thinking about what I was going to say this morning,
Don't look at the clock.
I was thinking. The first thought that came to me was, I'm going to talk about God's faithfulness, because I really struggled when I was having the call. It was 5 or 6 years that I lingered with that, making that decision, and as going through that time, that I felt at that time that was the worst part of my life. But now I look back on it, and it's probably, as I look at it now, when God was dealing with me and bringing me to the place where He wanted me to be, it was the sweetest years of my life. It was bitter. It was hard. And so I want to thank God for His faithfulness. I want to thank my wife for being a faithful wife, a faithful mother, and a faithful pastor's wife. Very seldom did I go to church that she didn't go along, or the family. I could probably count on my one hand how many times I went to make a hospital visit that she didn't go along. She was always faithful and always willing to drop the work. You know, if I say today or tonight we should probably go visit somebody in the hospital, it was never too hard for her to drop whatever plans she had and go along. And as most of you know, she's a better speaker than I am. And she could carry a conversation in the hospital with a sick person better than I can. And she was a great blessing. And then next, I want to thank our family, our children, for their faithfulness. They probably sacrificed more than what we realize. They said that we went to church a lot. And I wonder sometimes if they were always looking forward to going to church as often as they went. I'm sure they weren't. But they probably sacrificed more than what I and my wife realized. Because there were nights that I should have spent time with them, and I was busy. If I didn't have to go somewhere, you know, sermons don't just pop in your mind. You have to prepare. And sometimes I felt kind of guilty when I was preparing a sermon and could have maybe been outside in a summer night with the children. Or not just a summer night, or spending some time with the children. So I'm sure that if they would look back over their time, they could probably think of times that Dad wasn't there when he should have been there. Or maybe could have been. I had a hard time trying to decide. I was trying to be a pastor, trying to be a father, and trying to be a farmer. And if I didn't do my farming right, I didn't earn a living. And I had a family to support. So trying to divide the time into those 3 different areas, I failed. I didn't always get accomplished what I should have. But then again, God was faithful. When I was struggling with the call, I was kind of shocked last night when we did our daily bread reading. It was the very same scripture that I was referring to, that I wanted to refer to this morning. When God called me, he called me at camp meeting one afternoon where I first sensed the call. And if you remember, years ago, on the camp meeting pulpit, it was a little bit different than what it is today. All those chairs behind the pulpit, were usually full. And then there were 3 men that sat on if you were in the pews, they were on the left side of the pulpit, sitting on a lawn chair. And then on the right side, the presiding elder always sat, and then the other minister sat behind him. And then one afternoon, as we were in the service there, I sensed that the Lord spoke to me, and and those 3 of those men that were sitting on the left side there were probably about as old then as I am now. And the Lord said, "You're supposed to replace one of those men." He didn't say which one, but he said they need a replacement. And I struggled with that for a long time until it got that heavy that I had to do something about it. And I know one evening we came home from church, and after we came home from church, I always changed clothes and went out to the barn to check to see if everything's all right. And the children, of course, they were in bed. But that night, I knelt in the barn and I prayed. I could take you to the very spot. And I took the Lord to that very spot many times. I even took the devil there a couple times to defeat him. And this is the scripture that came to this is a scripture that didn't just come to my mind, I heard it. Joshua chapter 1 and verse 5. As I was with Moses, so will I be with you. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. God has been faithful. He has not left me, nor has he forsaken me, nor has he failed me. That verse goes with me all the time. But that wasn't enough. I was kind of stubborn. I always had the feeling that there were better men in the United Christian Church to answer the call than I. And that was a setback. I felt I'd be a failure. And I believe that's why God gave me that scripture. And different things happen along my call that brought me to the place, you know, we sang that song when we closed Sunday school, I think, this morning. And I don't know why you chose that, Mark, but you did. I'll go where you want me to go. There was a time during that period of time that I couldn't sing that song because I wasn't willing to do what he wanted me to do. So I remember one evening, one night while we were in bed sleeping, I had a dream. And this call was getting heavy on me because I knew I had to do something. I was hoping it would go away, but it didn't go away. It kept getting heavier. So one night I dreamt that I responded to this call. And I felt so good. I felt the burden was lifted. I felt almost as free as a bird in the air. And then I woke up. Then I realized it was a dream. It didn't happen. The burden was still there. So now what I do? I got a glimpse of what it would feel like if I would respond, and I also knew what it was like not to respond. But things went on, things happened, and then our nephew worked for us, Jeff Eberly. He passed away in a swimming accident sometime after that then. But he spent a lot of time at our place and worked weekends for us. And I'm not sure what happened anymore, but something happened that he had to go to the emergency room. And I took him to the emergency room, and as I was there in the emergency room, waiting room, while he was back, he had to get some stitches for some reason. I don't know why. But while I was there, the Lord again spoke to me. I probably was the only one in the waiting room, I think. But you know, I heard a voice, and there was no one else there, so it had to come from God. And he said, "How long are you going to wait?" And I took that very serious because I got the feeling that he's not going to let me alone. And I became fearful. I thought, I got to the place that I didn't really enjoy going to church anymore, because every time I went to church, I felt condemned. And I knelt many times at that one spot in the barn and prayed about this. And then I got to the place that I prayed, and I said, "Lord, if you want me to do this, make me willing." And he did. But after that, in the hospital, in that waiting room, from that time on, I was fearful. I thought, I just had a fear that maybe the Lord's going to take one of my children. So I got on the ball. I didn't want that to happen. And then it was either January or February of 1975, I finally said yes. And I went to visit, we as a family went to visit John Ludwig Sr. He was the pastor at the present time. at Newmanstown, and John and Laura lived in Palmyra. And it was a cold winter night when we had this appointment to meet with John. So we went up to John and Laura that night, and my wife and the girls, they spent time in the living room there with Laura, and I and John went back in his study. And that night I revealed to John what I was feeling and what I was going through. And he said, we better talk to Henry about this. So we left Palmyra that night, and it was cold. And we had snow, there was snow on the ground, and it was full moon. And I can remember as plain as it would have happened yesterday. When we turned at the light in Annville to go over to 322, I looked out the window as we were driving 934. I never saw more beautiful scenery than I ever saw that night. The moon was so bright, the snow was so white, and I felt so light. I never felt any better than that. And that began the start. A few weeks later, I gave my call at Newmanstown, and that started the ministry. And that's why we're here today. And then there's a song that a gospel group used to sing, and there's just a phrase of it that keeps lingering with me. And it goes like this. I'm not going to sing it. But these are the words that linger with me. Don't let me leave behind an unfinished task. It goes like this. If I carry the gospel to the lost near and far, I won't stand empty-handed at God's judgment bar. I don't want to stand empty-handed. I want to be faithful. And that's why I went over my 15 minutes.
You know, Eli stands up here and preaches from Sunday to Sunday, and there's times where he feels that he shouldn't say something, and that really bothers me. He apologizes to the congregation at that time, and I tell Eli, don't apologize. Speak the truth. You're doing the word of the Lord, the work of the Lord. Don't apologize to the congregation. It's the devil that's telling him, don't do it. He has been faithful to the Lord, and we see that time and time again.
I want to add just one thing, and then I'm going to keep quiet. Sometimes a preacher don't know what to preach. Sometimes it comes real easy, you know what you should preach. Sometimes you don't, and you wonder why. Lord, why should I preach this sermon this morning? And you try your best. And then you stand back there at the door, and someone goes by and says, that's just what I needed.
And that's how the Lord works. That one person that was in that congregation this morning needed that message that day. And Eli had no clue, although some mornings you think he's sitting there glaring right through you, and he's preaching directly to you, and there's nobody else in this church but you, because the Lord's laying that message on your heart. That's how the Lord works. He's talking to you. Anybody else want to share this morning?
Josh is our oldest grandson, and he spent some time with his papa.
I didn't know I was supposed to say anything, but I do have tendencies like my grandmother and Eric. I can talk about anybody, so. I guess when I think of my grandparents and their ministry, the same word came to mind as my grandpa, faithfulness. There's never a time where Grandma and Papa weren't there, weren't serving. You can always count on them to be there when something needed to be done. And that's the word that comes to mind when I look at them.
I was just thinking a little bit when Dad was talking about time management, his struggles to prepare a sermon and spend time with family and everything else. And one thing that I will say about Dad at this stage in his life is he's a real encouragement for me personally, because I'm right in the thick of that stage myself, not preparing sermons, but just being in life with my kids and church and everything. And if I tell Dad that something's bothering me or I'm struggling to get something done, I can almost guarantee in a couple hours he's going to call me and say, "Hey, how's that going? Did you get that done?" And he's just very encouraging. And one thing that always stuck out to me with his sermon preps is he likes, like most of us probably that are in the ag industry, he likes to read the Lancaster Farming. And Lancaster Farming comes on a Saturday morning. And for as long as I can remember, he does not pick up that Lancaster Farming until his sermon is preached. And there's sometimes I want to show him something or tell him something's in there. I just keep my mouth shut because, but no, this celebration, I wasn't around for some of the years of his ministry, but they were always my parents first. And I couldn't have asked for better parents. So that's how I went in.
And we are blessed to have you as our parents, and it's been a pleasure to share in these years of ministry with you, and we love you.
And all I gotta say is I agree. Amen.
Same thing, yeah. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Well, I know we're not your children out here, but this congregation does appreciate you also.
And we thank you guys at Manada for taking Mom and Dad in and loving them the way you have loved them for the past, how many years? Almost 30 years. You have become like a second family to my parents and to us. We hear all about you, and we all love you too.
I am a very stubborn person, just ask my wife, and the Lord has asked me to do things in my life that I was very stubborn. But I had the blessing of having Emma help teach the youth class with me. And it was very helpful for me in my life. I started realizing that if I needed something, I could ask Emma to pray for me. It was very hard for me to stand up front and do superintendent. My knees would shake together. I thought we had drums in the church. Nobody else heard them, but it was me. And before we come up from downstairs, I would just ask Emma if she could pray for me. And I knew she was. And different times over Sunday after Sunday, I would say something and Emma was there for me. And it was an encouragement. And if you would ask if I would be standing up here today, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there's no way I was going to be doing this. But that's what it means to have a mentor in your life. Whether they know it or not, you're mentoring people as you go through life. People may look up to you. And this is a couple that I have looked up to. And they encouraged me. And I know as a church member, I haven't always done everything right. But they never came and told me about it. They showed me love and encouragement. That's the kind of people they are. And I think that's why they have so many people that really appreciated what they've done in their ministry. I don't know what they've done, the other people, I'm just talking for myself, it was encouragement that they showed to me and showed me what I should be doing. And then I had to be obedient to what the Lord wanted me to do. So we just thank the Lord for this couple this morning. We certainly want to, when Eli was talking about him being stubborn, I just had to think about Moses. Moses ran off to the wilderness, but God was there. If you're here this morning and you're trying to run away from God, you're not going to run away from God. He's going to be with you. I was going to say he's going to find you. He don't have to find you. He knows where you are. You can't run away from God. Maybe it's something in your life this morning that's not quite right. Make it right today. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Maybe you're here today and you never accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. Like Emily was talking, her friend from college. Don't waste any more time. Accept Him as your personal Savior and follow Him and do what He wants us to do. Today is the day of the opportunity. Tomorrow may be too late. I think we are going to close the service unless somebody has something else to say. If not, we're going to ask Eli to have the closing prayer. There is a fellowship meal downstairs. And Eli, do you want to ask the blessing for that right away then? And then we can go downstairs. And I don't know what all is happening down there, but if we just, as we're gathered here, just have the blessing up here and close here this morning.
Well, I want to thank you, everyone, for coming and putting up with us this morning. We appreciated you coming and showing your concern for us.
Eli, I think I forgot something. There's some gifts here, correct? The card and the candy bar. If you did not sign a card back there, as you came into the church there's a card back there. We would like for you to sign that card back there. If you were present here this morning, just sign it. And I believe there's a candy bar back there with a picture of Eli and Emma on the candy bar. That's for them. Am I missing anything else that's back there? I did not look. Okay. So that is for Eli and Emma. That's yours. Okay. So please take that with you then. But if you didn't sign that card when you came in the doors this morning, please sign it so they can take the card along home with them.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you again for coming. Thank you again for putting up with us for these years. I didn't realize that United Christian Church had so many patient people, but I found out that they're pretty patient and they can put up with this fella for all these years.